We live in an age of astonishing access to information, yet we trust it less and less. It's a problem. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 14, Chapter 7.
Information.
We call ourselves Homo sapien, the wise human, walking the earth, knuckles dragging on the ground for some 300,000 years now. And we developed from wise to wiser to Weisenheimers. Before Homo sapien, there was Homo erectus, a version of a human whose greatest accomplishment was walking upright. Somewhat upright. I've always wondered, what was that first day, that first moment when Homo erectus became Homo sapien? How did we get wise? There had to be a moment. Mrs. Gork says to Gork, "You know, honey, I was thinking." And he's like, "Thinking? What's that?" She explains it. He starts doing it. It spreads cave to cave. Next thing you know, it's, "Well, Gork, I don't mind the erectus every once in a while, but I think this sapien idea is the future." Let me introduce at this point the inspiration for this week's podcast. A history professor and writer, Yuval Noah Harari, who has been making the rounds lately promoting his new book, Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. Harari poses many interesting questions about us Homo sapiens, including this one.
We have named our species Homo sapiens, the wise human. But if humans are so wise, why are we doing so many self-destructive things? Why are we on the verge of committing ecological and technological suicide?
What a great question, although far from the first time it's been asked. Why do smart people do dumb things? And as we've learned, especially these last few years, stupid is apparently not limited to the stupid.
It's a collusion witch hunt.
According to Psychology Today, smart people make dumb mistakes, not because of a sudden attack of ignorance or apathy. No, it's because they have been seduced by their own success and the rewards of it. This helps them develop expectations of the way things should be. Not only that, smart people tend to attract other smart people, and they are generally unaccustomed to mistakes or failure. So when these things happen, they go into denial, and they support each other. In that they can't be wrong, it must be something or someone else who is wrong. Sound like anyone you know? Smart people do dumb things. Homo sapien, the wise human. We often forego wisdom. This goes to the root of the human being. We call ourselves social animals. Well, that's actually our own ego, because all animals are social. We just think we're special because we run the world, but we're social. Many studies have shown that we not only rely on each other to survive, but thrive in the presence of others. During our evolution, we always lived in groups, supporting how we interact with others in the world around us. No one can live happily for any extended period of time in isolation or loneliness. We are the wise humans, the thinking human. But none of this will do us any good if we don't share these thoughts with each other. And that brings us back to information networks, from the Stone Age to AI. This is not the first time I've touched on this topic in a podcast. I've spent my entire working life in media and the availability and sharing of information, and it has always fascinated me. People say we're in the information age. True, but really the information age has been around as long as Homo sapiens. From that first day Mrs. Gork said, I was thinking, bam, information age was born. The biggest difference about this current iteration of the information age, as Professor Harari is warning, is that for the first time in our 300,000-year history, humans are no longer in complete control of the information. For the first time ever, thanks to AI. We have an information sharing system that can create its own information, extrapolate and manipulate it without the need for a human. Furthermore, It's like a human because smart technology can do dumb things. Let's break down our communication networks from the Stone Age to AI. I can't do it as thoroughly as Professor Harari has in his book, but here goes. There are really 4 stages in information technology: pre-mechanical, mechanical, electromechanical, and electronic. Incidentally, electronic is not the new age. We have been in the electronic age of communication for almost 200 years, but I'll get to that. Let's get to pre-mechanical, and this will be, of course, an overview of general history. Stone Age. We are thinking, we're communicating now, starting with a series of grunts and groans and gestures. We're developing a language. It was survival. Hey, Gork Jr., when you leave the cave to go down to the creek for some fresh water, watch out for the tiger that likes to lurk behind the big rock next to the big tree. Hey, thanks, Pops. No problem, and tell the neighbors. We have, of course, found evidence of cave drawings, an attempt to preserve information for future generations. Languages were being developed. It took millennia, but writing evolved, from Sumerian cuneiform to Egyptian hieroglyphics. As societies grew through Europe and Asia, each came with a language. A lot of writing was dedicated to preserving history, at least as it was seen by those in power. As we've since learned, history is written by the victors. Information was still not available to the masses, who relied mostly on language, word of mouth, the word's out, word about town. Outside information came only from travelers, wandering minstrels, sometimes the invading hordes. Various other societies and tribes experimented with all kinds of information-sharing systems. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons. Ever seen those huge Swiss Alp horns? They were originally built to call cattle, but they became a bit of a communication system between villagers. All of these are very inventive and speak to our need to be social and to communicate, but writing and reading seem to be where it's at. Again, the writing's not available to the masses. Mail began thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, but that too was mostly for royalty. Pharaohs engaged couriers to carry documents and decrees across the territory. Please, Mr. Postman, look and see. Is there a letter in your bag for me? Fun fact, we still use mail. Unbelievably, nations still have postal systems, struggling postal systems that run in the red. Packaged goods I can see, but can you believe there's still a segment of our society that says written information must be put on paper, sealed, stamped, and physically run across the city or country? It sounds so, ancient Egypt, doesn't it? I'm thinking I should get myself a horse, start my own Pony Express. I mean, I still see bike couriers. I think of them as Pony Express with better technology. In ancient times, even if you could read, chances are you did not have access to the stone carvings on the wall somewhere. Read any good walls lately? You didn't have access to scribblings on papyrus. You know, the first ever library is thought to be thousands of years old, but it was built for a king. The first public library didn't appear till around 900 A.D. in the region we now call Iraq. Scribe was once an occupation. There were men who painstakingly, in longhand, with quill and ink by candlelight, made copies of important documents, sometimes entire essays and books, so that more people could access the information. Can you imagine a best-selling author of the day? How many books have you sold? 2? Oh, wow. Now that pretty much covers the pre-mechanical age of information. Grunts and groans, cave drawings, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, the Pony Express, mail, and the longhand written word. It's amazing, really, that anybody learned anything. The shift to the mechanical age may seem obvious. It was in the mid-1400s. Gutenberg comes up with the printing press. although some historians say the Chinese had this technology up to 200 years previous. Nevertheless, a paradigm shift. The written word could be copied mechanically into the hundreds, perhaps the thousands. Books, essays, flyers. Within about 100 years, newspapers sprang up. This led to an increased demand for printed material, which further led to somewhat of a golden age of writers, essayists, historians, novelists, playwrights, reporters. Within a couple of centuries, the typewriter was invented. Man, that was almost like having your own Gutenberg printing press in your home. Well, sort of. At least an individual could churn out the content at a greater rate. And this was the way for about 400 years, the mechanical age. What changed? Next phase, electricity, the electromechanical age. There are still long debates involving people like Volta, Tesla, Edison, Sturgeon, Faraday, as to who knew what first. Who first experimented with these electromagnetic signals sent by wire? The practical use of electricity et al. But widely, we say around 1832, Samuel Morse, the telegraph, with its own language, Morse's dots and dashes code that could be easily and quickly translated back to English. The telegraph changed everything. I will argue that all the information communication inventions since then, telephone, radio, television, computers, internet, satellites, wireless, and cell phones, are all just improvements of the telegraph. The telegraph was our first foray into almost instant electronic communication with each other. And then we nuanced it into real-time and face-time communications and the exchange of information. Nothing changed, really. It just got improved until artificial intelligence. I don't care for that term myself. What's in a name? Well, a lot. Artificial intelligence implies it's not real. The thing is, though, the intelligence could be very real. It's simply created without the help of a human being, which we seem to dub artificial. The intelligence may not be artificial. It's just artificially generated. We humans are relinquishing control to a machine. These war games, Terminator, Matrix scenarios are becoming more possible, if not already. And we have this idea that if things get bad, we'll just unplug it. Like HAL we can. It may not let you. Even so, can you imagine unplugging today? Then how would you get food, gasoline, money, information? Somehow, at least figuratively, today you've got to be plugged in. Machines have learned all the human traits. We've taught them well, including how to survive threats from the outside. And there's this. The tech and information tech world is largely unregulated. It's easy to blame our lawmakers for letting us down, except that lawmakers generally do what we tell them to do. Laws are only laws until they stop serving our practical existence. How was our information network and AI allowed to develop virtually unregulated? Even if you are a proponent of less government and less interference in our lives, laws by and large are the explicit social contracts that come with a rule of law judicial system and degrees of punishment for doing something that violates the chartered rights of an individual and the overall good of society. I can't believe that I gotta say it, but you gotta say it today. We need laws. Instead, today we have one of the world's richest companies, Meta, Facebook, who will not spend sufficient money on content moderation to stem things like hate speech or foreign influence on elections. They say they try, but do they? Do they try hard enough? Hey, it's freedom of speech, people say. Well, to partially quote Bob Ray's poem, the expression of hatred is not a difference of opinion. A lie is not the truth. And I will add that content moderation is not censorship. It is your right to be able to say a lot of things. You also have the right to remain silent. Today in our world, we have the first e-despot that we've ever had, Elon Musk and X. People say, well, it's his company, he can make the rules. Partially. But it's a company that's masquerading as a social media free speech platform. He's not running a diner that says no shirt, no shoes, no service. On his platform, people's posts and likes mysteriously disappear, and their reach is cut by half or more for unknown reasons. Other people still like to hire his space company and buy his Teslas, while he is convoluting a viral information network. Private companies are one thing, but they exist in a public society. Social rules and mores must apply. There is a famous saying attributed to Einstein: never memorize anything you can look up. Little old me can finally say, Einstein was wrong. Einstein didn't live in a time when you could look up everything. And he obviously didn't conceive that such a time would ever exist. By Einstein's theory of relative memory, today, why would the world need to remember anything? Even know it in the first place? Look it up. All you really need to know is how to look it up. Did we stop learning math after the calculator was invented? No, because learning math teaches our brain a sense of quantity and limits and logic, as is the case with many of the sciences. Arts and literature teach our brains aesthetics, sociality, and belonging. Instead of building machines that can replace humans, why aren't we working on building better humans? As much fun as your cell phone is, humans are way better to hang out with than machines. Be more human. You know, from the very first axe and plow, machines were invented to make human lives easier and give us more time to be human, not to be with our machines. Have we forgotten that? Be more human. At least if you think you know something, take a moment to come up with it yourself instead of instantly looking it up. For human's sake. What's the name of the country at the crossroads of North and Central Africa? Hey, what is the first name of that Kroger guy, the lead singer of Nickelback? The answer to both is Chad. You don't have to memorize the 50 states, which I have, by the way, but keeping an active memory just makes life easier, and in the end, more valuable. The brain is not a muscle, but it acts like one in that you use it or lose it. It's true. Look it up, Einstein. The other day I wanted to book a flu shot at my pharmacy, where I have got all of my vaccinations for the last 4 years. I'm also registered there for prescriptions. They have my health card information. I can show 2 pieces of photo ID. A couple people at the dispensary even know me just to see me. Oh, hey, hi, you're the guy that was in last week asking about Advil. Yet to book a flu shot, sorry, you have to go online. But I'm standing right here, right now. You know me. I have ID. I want to get the flu shot right here at this pharmacy. Sorry, online. They are being less human. I need some medical records for an insurance claim. My medical records. My doctor says, go online. But I'm standing right here. You know me. You see, you got a printer right there. Or you know my email if that's easier. No, gotta go online. And I'm tired of hearing about all the good that technology and AI can do for us humans. It's like saying Hitler had some good ideas about agriculture. You know, maybe. But when it comes to Hitler, there's the matter of this other thing. After that, maybe I'm not as interested in his farming practices anymore. AI can easily spell the end of humanity. But you know, it's got some good qualities. Sorry, no.
AI is the first technology in history that can make decisions by itself, that can create new ideas by itself, and that can take power away from humans. Silicon chips can create spies that never sleep, financiers that never forget, and despots that never die.
I know, it's AI, it's there, cat's out of the bag. Can open, worms everywhere. Pandora's box. We're trying to close the barn door after the horse has run out. You can't uninvent it. You can't kill an idea. Those are the challenges, because AI is here. Professor Harari is not the first to warn us about it. Geoffrey Hinton is called the grandfather of artificial intelligence. Even he has said, Uh-oh, this is not good. Hinton and hundreds of other scientists signed an open letter asking the industry to pause the giant experimentation with AI. Hundreds of thousands of other citizens also signed the letter. I guess Apple and Google didn't get the message because they recently introduced new, supposedly beneficial AI components for their products. AI is so good, we no longer know what's real and what ain't. AI makes it increasingly difficult to tell. Eventually, we just give up even trying. Many of us already have. Wandering through all of this information is just way too tough. A much easier way is just to not trust anything. And we have billions of people walking around not trusting anyone or anything. Well, handbasket now boarding. Destination, hell.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.